Talisman 5th edition Life Tactics. This for me, coming from 4th edition to 5th edition, was a big change, was a big switch in the Tactica in terms of early game, mid game, end game, making that run for the Crown of Command. And with just a slight change to the rules, the entire paradigm of how we're going to approach life, loss of life, preserving life, utilizing that, maybe boosting it by fate, has completely changed. Now, in 4th edition, you had your life. You could stack it up higher, you could stack it up lower. When your life was removed, you died. All of your gear, all of your followers, all of your pets, all of your potions dropped on that space, and it was a mad rush for all the other players to grab what they could, loot what they could. You drew a new character randomly, and you started the game. What we see here was at the beginning of the game, you're in the outer region, you're farming for cards, you're farming for objects. If I was killed at that point, then it wasn't that much of a setback because we're still working on developing our strength or our craft, depending on the path. We're looking at gaining some objects, some gear, some followers. Sometimes I would even try to get killed because it was a random draw of a character. So what this would mean, and we're going to explore that Tactica in a moment, what this would mean sometimes if it was a random draw and the other people I was playing with got better characters than me, and I wasn't talking about playing from a kind of narrative perspective. We're talking a little bit more competitively. Sometimes I knew just to try and develop the character I randomly grabbed, hidden draw, blind draw, it was going to be hard. Let me run into the dungeon and get killed so I can draw another character. Well, now you're effectively immortal, so you can't do that. You're stuck with the character that you get. Of course, you're selecting that character in theory. But what we saw with 4th edition is as you move to the middle and especially end game, where now we're 50, 60 turns in, we've got some good gear, we've got leveled up some stats. If you died, if you got killed, starting over meant the odds of you being able to recover and gear up and grind up in time to be in sync with the other players made it pretty much an impossibility. If you were playing with one other player or 2 players plus yourself, maybe, but it's going to be hard. If it was 3 or 4 more players, it just wasn't going to happen. So what you started to see towards mid-game was the shift was a lot more conservative in life. Depending on the expansions, I'd like to get a healing potion. If I've got a healing spell, yes, it could be hit with the vortex, but I'll keep it in my pocket if I need it. As soon as I'm down a life point, even if I've got 4 more, cast the healing spell. I want to be topped off so I don't hit sudden death. That's completely changed. Now, when you lose life and you get killed, you teleport back out, and next turn you either heal up if you have the gold, so you're going to pay the gold tax, which right now isn't that much of a tax because the stuff that you would buy with the gold really you're buying at the beginning of the game. That will change, I'm sure, as we get expansions and other things to explore. But building on that, if you don't have gold, you gain a life and you kind of go back on your way. You don't pay that catastrophic kill-all price. So what that means is by mid-game, where I want to stay topped off, I could take a little bit of a risk going to certain encounters. I could take a little bit of a risk to see what happens. If I lose a life or 2, then I don't have to necessarily worry about topping off. It speeds the game. It does 2 things. It speeds the game up because I will take more risks. There's no reason for that Tactica to be conservative anymore. But at the same time, what it means is if I do get killed, there is a delay where it moves me back because now I've got to traverse back to make my run for the Crown of Command if we're in competition with that. But I don't lose my stats. I don't lose my gear. I don't lose my stuff. That not only speeds the game up, but it always still keeps me in the absolute run of the game. Unless we're in the making a run for the Crown of Command, we're neck and neck. If I get killed and spit back out, the 3, 4, 5 turns it'll take me optimally to get back up there, by that point, another player should have easily defeated the Elder Dragon and move on. So that's the first shift where I don't want to say life doesn't have any meaning anymore, but the specter of death, which I guess if we get the Reaper expansion, that's going to change, that has completely shifted and completely changed in the game.